And we're live. What's going on, everybody? It's Bitcoin Ben here live. Well, not live on the channel, but here. And we have Geoff McCabe from the Divi Project. And we got Bix Weir over here. He's recording. This will be on his channel also. We're here to educate the public on Divi and answer questions, and because transparency is the key to everything. So welcome, guys. Welcome, Bix. Welcome, Geoff.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
And it's probably my what would I call it? My fault that we're on this call, because I was going off on a rant on what's his name, the CFTC guy.
Oh yeah.
Giancarlo, Chris Giancarlo.
Giancarlo. Oh.
Yeah. And I got to talking about.
And then Divi innocently walked past in your mind, and all your anger got dumped right on me and my partner Nick.
Yes. Well, you kind of went down that way, because Ben has been talking a lot about Divi, and I had people saying, I'm going to sell all my Litecoin for Divi. And I'm like, wait. And I've been dealing with it for a while. And I am the first to admit, I did not before that take a deep dive into Divi, other than understanding the inflation situation and how I feel about inflation and currencies in general. So that's kind of where it sprung from. And I apologize if I said anything wrong. Although I replayed it a few times, although I said it in a kind of hyper angry way. The points I had were more like questions and how can I see that type of thing. So I have
it was rather insulting. It felt sort of personal insulting when somebody's calling your project that you have a lot of effort and pride in, implying that it's a fraud and that kind of thing. But I like to take things from a global view, try to look at from other people's point of view, and try to think about things from a humble position. And I realized that it wasn't your fault, your perception. It's really our fault, perhaps, for not doing a better job. I mean, most people that doing a better job of basically explaining. Most people that take a deep look into Divi, love what they find. But why should people have to take a deep look when there's 5,000 shitcoins to look through? Why should it be that difficult, right? So I'm seeing this as an opportunity to really, understand your perspective and make it more easy for people on a cursory view to get a better impression, because otherwise we're losing them. There's probably, who knows, there could be 1,000 people in the last few months that have gone to our website, didn't have a lot of time, and had the same impression as you did, and we lost those people when they could have become fans. So I think that perhaps what you've done here, it could be extremely helpful to us. So I'm looking forward to
follow this. And that's another reason I actually wanted to have Bix on the show, and then you offered to come on and look, which I thought was a great idea, because once I thought of it, I'm like, all right, wait, I'm not an expert on Divi, I know about it, but I'm not the creator of it. So you offered to actually come on and answer the questions. I'm like, that makes perfect sense, because everyone knows I love me some Bix Weir. And he's probably one of my favorite guys in the world.
Even though we fight all the time.
That's okay. That's all right. We're brothers. We fight all the time. The only thing that initiated it to me was when he said, I'm this close to calling it a scam. And that because I knew what he meant. He's very protective of the cryptocurrency market, the in general. You know, he's like, look, there's good projects and there's shit projects. And I don't want anybody watching my show or his show to actually get hit with a shit project. And but at the same time, I'm like, wait a second, Geoff and Nick are friends now, and I can't let a friend call another friend or almost call them a scam. And I'm like, these are good people, because it's the equivalent of if anybody called Bix, you know, well, he's a scammer. I would jump their ass so quick that their head would roll off their shoulder. And that's why this is all going down. But
what I should have said is, I'm this close to doing more research. That's what I should have said.
Well, you know, there's a lot of different types of scammers you'll discuss. There's people that are scammers who know they're scammers. Then there's people that are scammers that don't know they're scammers. You know, they've got a project that's just never going to work, and they just believe in it with so much heart that they believe in it, but it's never going to work. And most of the many projects are in that category. And there's people that are just really clueless. And that's the same with any kind of business category, not just crypto, right? There's a lot of people that, you know, they invest their life savings into a business, and it fails. And it can look like a fraud, you know, or it can look like a scam. We're none of those things. You'll see when we talk, and the more you look.
But I'm gonna have a hot cup of Shut the Pluck Up, and I'm gonna let you guys ask questions, talk, whatever. I'm gonna sit here and just look beautiful.
Do what you do best, Ben. Do what you do best. All right, Geoff, if you could give, I mean, I've got, I don't know, 100,000 followers on various platforms. If you can give us kind of an overview of what Divi is and why you like Divi, not anything huge, but enough to wet the whistle of the people. I've done some research over the past few days on it, but I do have questions, and I don't want this to be a group hug, because some of my questions I feel are important. So
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Give us an overview of what Divi is and why you think.
Well, from the beginning, Divi has been all about crypto made easy. And at first that meant to us that Divi was going to be the easiest cryptocurrency to use. But that's really transformed, and it may not even be clear in our white paper and our marketing that it's really about making other cryptos easier to use too. So for example, I get a lot of flack often from Bitcoin maximalists that don't, you know, they don't like, they immediately come at me like they've already decided they don't like Divi just because it's not Bitcoin. And to some extent that happens with Litecoin too. They're, you know, they're team players, they're tribal, you know. But then I explained to them that what we're trying to do is make an ecosystem where we could make Bitcoin and Litecoin much easier to use. For example, having a really easy on-ramp to Bitcoin or Litecoin, or being able to send Bitcoin or Litecoin with WhatsApp or through SMS, and all these kind of things, and putting that all into a single package. You know, it's all about sort of swaps, like one-click swaps from Divi to Bitcoin, or Divi to fiat currencies, or fiat currencies to Bitcoin, making everything really, really easy, and creating a platform where other people can build cool apps to do that. Like one of the things that we mentioned, and you know, we said we weren't going to announce this, but I'll just sort of mention this as a cool thing that we talked about doing, is to make what we call a Litecoin master node. The way that works is that somebody buys Divi and sets up a master node, and in the background though, Litecoin gets produced. So what they see in their Litecoin masternode panel is Litecoin being produced in their Litecoin wallet by owning some Divi, right? And that wouldn't. And I've talked to a bunch of Litecoin fans, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so cool." They love the idea, right? Because so many people, you can't really mine Litecoin anymore unless you have a warehouse, right? So these kind of things that you can create through interoperability are the kind of things that we want to be able to do with the platform we're building.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, for me, when I did read the white paper, you did talk about Divi being a cryptocurrency. Now, for me, it's taken a while, but I've kind of categorized them in platforms, in tokens, and in cryptocurrency. And each one, even the government is about to, U.S. government at least, is about to come down and say, okay, the Treasury is in charge of the cryptocurrencies, the tokens and company type stuff is going to be the SEC, and then the platforms will be the CFTC or something to that effect. And for me, for a cryptocurrency to survive, it does need massive amounts of decentralization, massive amounts of immutability. You can't rely on people or companies or anything like that. And that's where I kind of was coming in with Divi, because I had read at least the short version of the white paper. And it was talking about Divi being a cryptocurrency, the use case being a cryptocurrency going up against Bitcoin, Litecoin, and whatever cryptocurrencies are out there. And that's when I came in saying, all right, we've got people involved, we've got a company involved, the Divi Corporation. We've got mining involved, because masternodes. Tell me when I go off base here. Masternodes, the one-click masternode, I did it last night. It's really easy, and it was really fun. But
Yeah.
But to me it felt like, well, my computer's not doing anything really. It's all being done on the servers of Divi, which is a centralization point in my mind. And
right.
That's fine if you're a company creating products and platform like it sounds like you're doing. If you're just going for the cryptocurrency market where you are a currency that is a standalone, that's got a problem with it in the point of attack for governments, for example.
Right.
So
right. So about you asked about centralization, and so there's several aspects of that. One is you were somehow under the assumption that we own a majority of the coins or a massive amount of the coins, that there was a pre-mine or any of this. There was actually only.
I misspoke.
Yeah. So there was only 8% given to the team, which the founders, of which there were 5, and Nick and I are the only 2 founders left. So the 2 of us together have a fraction of 8%, and whatever else we may have bought in between. So or earned from our master nodes and staking. So the team's amount is very small. You also mentioned that or maybe it wasn't you, but one of the people who was sort of arguing your point on one of the channels mentioned that we get 16% of the block rewards for every block that's produced that goes to the team. And they added that up and they said, oh, that's like 100 million. That's like 100 million Divi. But you have to realize we spend all of that every month. So we basically very carefully sell that either to friends, family, anybody that wants it, or we sell it on the market as carefully as we can, and we use that to fund the team, or we pay a lot of the team just in Divi. Our Divi, our team are massive Divi fans, and actually most of our key developers are taking only Divi and like living off of savings right now while they hoard their Divi. That's how much they believe in it. So that's a really good sign for crypto when that's happening, right? So we don't hoard any of that Divi. We spend it. Also, it's actually in 2 parts, right? There's a Divi Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation that basically controls the blockchain. And that foundation pays Divi Labs, which is a for-profit company that's building the wallets. So like most other cryptocurrencies, there's a nonprofit foundation, and then there's for-profit entities. Now, anybody can start a company to do this. They can build on our blockchain because our blockchain is open source. And while it's true that Nick and I basically control it right now, that's because we're doing a good job. if our coin holders wanted to, they could, because it's open source, they could fork the code, change the treasury address, and go a different direction with the blockchain. And so it's decentralized in that way. We do not have the final say. We have no power to really control it. And that's pretty much the same with all cryptocurrencies, even with Bitcoin, right? People get mad. They don't like the way the team, Bitcoin Core or the miners like the way things are going, and they'll go and start BSV or some crap like that, right? So that could happen to us too. If we screw up, I expect that it probably would, but so far we've been doing a good job. People are really happy with what we're doing, and they especially love the way that we communicate. We hear that a time and time again, that one of the things they love most about Divi is that we just tell them what's going on, and they see us as real people. They know us. They know our personal lives because we share a lot about ourselves. People know. I live in Costa Rica, and everybody knows where we are. They see us around. And I personally greet every single new person into our Telegram to, ask them who they are, how they found us, what their hopes and dreams are for Divi, and how they see us. And people love that. People are really surprised that the CEO is taking that time. And it's not because I'm a nice guy. I mean, I am a nice guy, but I do it because it's really valuable to know what all the people want that own your tokens. Because you're right that it's all about creating scarcity. I want scarcity, and a good way to create scarcity is to get all of your people to feel involved with the project, to feel connected to you as a person and to the team, and to want to buy more. So that happens all the time. People come in and they say, oh, I've decided to buy a copper node, I'm going to experiment. But by the end of the conversation, they're like, I'm going to get a silver node. But they've now tripled their purchase, right? So I help creating scarcity. And there's no better salesperson than the founder, right? We can hire salespeople to like push Divi all day long, but it's not authentic like what Nick and I can do. So that's valuable. And so more CEOs should do that. I mean, people are going to say they don't have time, but I feel like if you're not doing that, you're missing out on a huge opportunity with your cryptocurrency.
Okay. That's a great answer.
But hang on one. Geoff, I want you to know that Bix runs a Divi masternode now. And the reason I'm saying that is not that, Bix runs a masternode. No,
yeah.
He actually got it so he'd have hands-on knowledge and actually interact with the product. Bix is, like I said earlier, Bix is as genuine as a person as I've ever met. And Geoff, and this is actually Aggie towards Bix. Geoff is as compassionate and honest. Whenever you meet someone, you have that handshake moment. It's everything I've seen Geoff do, because I've literally sat there and watched the Telegram group, not said a word. No one knows I'm in there. I'm just watching it, and I'm watching the interaction. And watching people when they don't know they're being watched is pretty informative. You leave them in the natural surroundings and just watch them. And Geoff's reaction to, and this also includes Geoff and actually Nick, their reaction to some pretty aggressive, negative people has actually been pretty amazing to watch, because I'd have mother plucked the hell out of, but that's not their approach.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to have friends who are both good people in bringing you two together, because I think that this call and this video will not only resolve issues and answer questions. I think in the future that this will be a, what should an interview of a project really look like? Because Bix is not going to try and get you. He's not going to.
Oh, I have one more thing to get him with.
I know.
That's okay.
This is really turning into a love fest here, and I think all the viewers can be very, very disappointed. They're expecting some kind of crypto food fight,
No, I got a cheeseburger.
So come on, hit me with some good ones here.
Okay, here we go. All right, here's the one that I understand. My three issues were, one was the centralization, number two was the use case, and number three was the inflation issues. In
the bank, you don't like us running a bank.
Well, that's part of the centralization part. I come from banking. I was in banking for 30 years, and I left. I am closely tracking what's going on with the banking system. I know that they can fail at any moment in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
If the Fed didn't give them $500 billion for this weekend, they would fail. So, what would a failing bank do to your cryptocurrency or crypto company if you were a participant, or the ramifications? I mean, obviously the whole world would have ramifications if the banking system imploded. But as a owner of a bank, do you have full ownership? Is it fractional reserve type of bank? What's the deal with?
Okay, so I'll explain this to you, and you're gonna love this. So basically, our for-profit company, which is Divi Labs, purchased 30% of a company that we call RE. Stands for Remesas Instantaneas, which is Spanish. We put the two together to make ReDivi, so we own 30% of it. And the reason that why 30% is important is because the Financial Action Task Force regulations now require centralized custodial crypto or money, basically crypto companies like Coinbase. If you're sending a transfer from one financial entity to the next, you have to basically do KYC, AML on both sides. So you have to send all this personal information and all this stuff. By us owning 30% of that bank, we can KYC, AML people that want to do it. It's not a requirement, but if they want to use these kind of bank type services, we can do it one time, and then we can pass that information in the background to make a very, very smooth process. So people could be basically using our bank features without even knowing it. So they don't have to go through all that paperwork again and take scans and send photos of themselves and provide information to the bank. But all they have to do is do it one time.
Right, one time.
Yeah, they do it one time in the system, then we can pass it over. So there's no other crypto company that can do that unless they own 30% of a bank. They can't do that. So it gives us a huge sort of competitive advantage. And the reason that all that's really important is because what we found is that the hardest part of getting newbies into crypto is getting them into crypto. How do you get them to buy crypto in the first place? It's extremely painful process for them, and many of them just walk away once they see how difficult it is. Even Coinbase is hard, right? And if we have to send people to Coinbase and then try to explain to them how to get Bitcoin and then send Bitcoin to another exchange that they have to KYC there too, and then buy Divi with it, then send it to the Divi wallet. It's a nightmare, right? And so most people will just walk away. 98% of the world will walk away from that situation. So what we want is to be able to get people in very, very, very easily. And so we have these. We're very lucky in that I happen to be in Costa Rica because our bank is in Costa Rica, and Costa Rica has these bank accounts that are up to $1,500 a month, where all people need to do is show a government ID and have a phone number, and you can get a bank account. And we can basically, using various services, basically do like a very minimal KYC AML on that bank account, like in a few seconds with partners. And so that means that if somebody wants to get in and buy some Divi and get into a bank account and have US dollar account or a Euro account, they can get it incredibly easily. And there's nobody else that can basically offer something like that. And we can do it in almost every country in the world. So why that's so important is that it's very difficult in a lot of developing countries for people to get banking. So, but these people have cell phones. So we can basically offer people in Africa, if they just have a national ID, which there's about 1 billion people in the world apparently that have a national ID, but they don't have a bank account or a bank near them. We can get them into bank accounts. And it's also very hard for these people to get US dollars. Often in a lot of these countries, you just cannot get US dollars because the banks, even their banks, don't have them. So if they want to do business, if they wanted to say order a part that need to start a business in their small town in the middle of nowhere, they need to get US dollars to be able to pay that. So we can offer that to them very, very easily. We're talking about a market of 1 billion people. And this really helps people to help themselves. That's something that I'm very much about. I live in Costa Rica. I live in a sustainable farm here. And I really like the idea of giving people tools to help themselves, to really reward work and give people the ability to work for themselves and basically improve their lives, right? So we have this really unique ability to do that for 1 billion people. People have been talking about doing remittances in cryptocurrencies for years, right? That was supposed to be one of the big use cases for cryptocurrencies, for Bitcoin, and it just never happened because you can send the crypto to somebody across the world, but then they can't get it into their local currency. And so we're trying to basically come up with unique solutions to basically close that gap. We'll have a few other announcements that will be coming in the next few months that are going to be really, really quite amazing. So I think Ben knows about some of them.
That's really cool. My question would be real quickly, do you take on any of the liabilities of the bank when you own 30%?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm the treasurer of the bank in Costa Rica. But this bank, let me explain something to you. The bank is not actually a bank. I'm not even supposed to. Everyone's always telling me, the lawyers say, don't call it a bank. It's not a bank. So it's not a bank. The banks don't like me to call it a bank because they don't like competition. What it is, it's a fintech. We're allowed to call it a fintech, and that stands for financial technology business. And fintechs are much scarier to banks than cryptocurrencies are. So the reason is because fintechs are operating under the same rules that they are, and that in the United States they're doing everything they can to make it difficult. But in Europe, the government has basically passed rules requiring the banks to basically open up and allow fintechs to compete with them. In the US, they're really dragging their feet. It's going to happen eventually, but that's going to take away a ton of the business of the banks. And so fintechs, in a way, are an ally of cryptocurrencies because they often want to work with us. The problem is that at the end of the day, banks and cryptos are natural enemies. And so there's a few cryptocurrencies you'll find like, including Litecoin, that have a small percentage of a bank. They can't comply with the fat F regulations like we can, and they're basically partnered or owned with a bank that has competing interests with them. And when I sat down with the guys from to make Divi, I said, look, we're interested in owning as part of this bank, but you have to realize that our goal is to put you and all banks out of business, at least out of business the way it's done now. And they said, yeah, we know that. That's why we're talking to you, because we know that crypto is going to kill our industry at some point. So we want to be partnered with a cryptocurrency company. So for me, that was sort of music to my ears, because this is not going to be easy. When we started in 2017, it seemed like it was a fast, inevitable thing that cryptos were going to take over the world. Then reality set in. The banks got the governments to pass all kinds of laws, or not pass laws, which is sometimes even worse, to make it very difficult for us to operate, and to turn cryptocurrencies into an actual usable currency. It's very difficult. And so we know that's going to be a long fight. And meanwhile, we have to basically have other use cases, right? And so rather than focusing on just being a currency in the short term and relying on that, which is what most cryptocurrencies are doing, and finding nobody's actually using their cryptocurrency because they don't offer anything new, we're doing a whole bunch of really unique things. Like, for instance, we're very focused on the fintech part. I talk with our partners at Divi. We literally want to take over the whole sectors of banking in Costa Rica with this company, by competing using all these great new technologies that these sort of dinosaur old banking companies in Costa Rica and Central America know nothing about. So, we have our team working on Divi, and Divi has this long-term plan of then incorporating Divi into its plans. For example, let's say Divi can get 1 million users in its standard banking type of things. I keep saying the word bank, but it's accounts, US dollar accounts, Costa Rica colonia accounts. We can start to, that means we have an audience. We could, in our app, we can start to tell them about Divi. We could offer 1% back if they use Divi, or if they buy Divi. We can tell them about masternodes. We can talk about all kinds of plans to basically use a masternode to save money for their kids, or we can offer people all kinds of education about crypto, because we have this audience that trusts us, right? Because they're banking with us. My personal goal, and the way I see this, is it's like a Trojan horse. It's like most cryptocurrencies are fighting Goliath with a slingshot, and what we're doing is sneaking behind enemy lines and stabbing them in the back, right? We're basically going into their territory and fighting them on their own territory, using their own rules, and picking away at them, and little by little, building our knowledge in the banking sector, and meanwhile starting to sneak Divi into the consciousness of all of our users, little by little. And we feel like that's a really solid long-term plan that's really realistic, that nobody else is doing. And so that's kind of explains why we have a bank. It's not because, and the fintech we have, it can pretty much do everything that banks can do except fractional banking. So if we wanted to, if we had a certain number, I think it's $1 million in Costa Rica of deposits, we could then apply for a banking license. And what that allows you to do, and this is like, everybody knows this, but it's really crazy when you really hear what you can do. If you have $1 million in deposits, you can go in your software and you can just loan money that you don't have. And then Costa Rica, they charge like 30 to 50% interest on that. And then they get that money, and then they pay back that money that they didn't have, and they keep all the interest. It's insane, and it's just crazy. I mean, it's the fractional banking system, and it's just like a few button pushes once you get this license. It's great. To me, it's crazy, and it just leads to a inevitable crash. It happens every 10 years. We're, probably coming up on another one any day now, but it depends who you talk to. But all my contacts in the banking system and in Wall Street all say it's happening in June or July. It's like nobody can stop it. It's nobody's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's not Obama's fault. It's just the system. It's just the math, really, of the system that's been broken for a long time, and people in charge know about it, and they benefit from it every time it happens. So they never change it, and I'm hoping this time it'll really change.
I think it will. I think it's going to be so big that people will demand change and demand the end of derivatives and fractional reserve shit and things like that. Let's get to my zinger. It's not a zinger. it's the problem I've had with other proof of stake masternode programs,
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies mainly, and that is the inflation, and then the not necessarily the inflation is in all cryptocurrencies to a point, but it's the concentration of that inflation into masternodes, into staking. For example, with Divi, the inflation numbers they're big. They're in the beginning. It's to get people in. I understand that inflation is not getting into the market. You won't see it in the price yet because it's going, I believe, and I think your numbers prove this, it's going back into more staking and more master nodes. So
Right.
what is happening, and what a lot of I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, but what their argument is that the inflation bomb builds over time, especially in the beginning, and that at some point there'll be some reason, a pinprick to break the dam of that accumulated inflation into the market and push, just destroy everything else, because the amount of coins that are printed don't really get into the system yet until after they come out of the staking and the master nodes.
Yeah.
That's
So
not a
yeah.
perfect explanation, but that's the way I've looked at for
There-
the past 5 years, the master node thing.
Yeah. So basically, that's very often the first question we get from people that look at our white paper, they see the inflation rate, and they say, oh my God, this inflation is so high, this is going to destroy Divi, right? And I have very good answers. So I'll tell you a few things of why it's not a problem. First of all, I created a high inflation rate when I wrote the white paper on purpose, because I felt like we were new. We needed to compete with Dash, and we needed to compete with Bitcoin, and we needed to compete with all these other cryptocurrencies that were really well known. If we had a low inflation rate like Bitcoin to start out with, or with like Dash, nobody would be interested. They just get Dash. So I had to find a way to get people to say, wow, I can make a lot of money on this, and yet believe that somehow the price wouldn't go down. And I read somewhere that most of the crypto market was millennials. And I also read in another place that gamification was really important to millennials in tech startups. So I thought to myself, okay, how can I gamify the masternode system? And that's how I invented a tiered system. And I thought, okay, so we have a tiered system, and I'll have ascending names for these tiers. So our system ended up being 5, and I named them after sort of precious metals: copper, silver, gold. And what happens, it happened exactly like we predicted. People get a copper, and then they feel like, oh, I really want a silver. That sounds a lot better than a copper, and plus I'm going to get 5% extra if I can collect more. So instead of people selling their rewards, they hoard their rewards, and then when they get close to getting the silver, they buy more. So instead of creating scarcity, it creates the opposite, right? And so if you look at our charts, you'll see that during crypto winter, while everybody else is dying, we were actually the number 2 best cryptocurrency over the last 6 months, as far as our market cap increase. So we've done extremely well. So we've proved, and that was with our first year we were at about 108% inflation, and now we're dropping this year to around 50, next year to like 30 or 28, something that it's going to drop off. So the question then is, well, how long can this be sustained? The reality is that the way I saw it is that with the first 3-4 years of what I call the network building phase, that's where we're basically building a network of node holders that are also passionate about this long-term plan. I try to sell people on this idea of like, look, it took Bitcoin 10 years to get where it is. Let's think in terms of 10 years, and I'm not allowed to talk about future value. All lawyers say, don't go on these shows and talk about future value. So I talk instead about, well, how many people can we get into the ecosystem, and how can I create scarcity? And let other people jump to the conclusions about what those kind of things mean, right? So what we find is that despite the high inflation, our value has been going up, and despite us selling quite a bit on our own, to fund the project. And that's, you know, that 16% I mentioned is a really good thing. A lot of cryptos run out of money. They run out of money, they're dead, right? We never run out of money. And the longer we last, the more people that know about us, the more people are buying it. You know, right now, more and more famous people in crypto, you know, these sort of the, you know, the really well-known Bitcoin maximalists, the people you talk about, more and more people are finding out about Divi, and they're getting nodes because when they actually, you know, do this interview and they talk to me on the side, I go to all these conferences and talk to everybody. We're becoming a lot more famous in the back scenes, right? So there's going to be a lot of people, I believe, coming our way because we're doing more and more of these kind of interviews, right? So what?
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I do know a Bitcoin maximalist that runs a 1 million Divi node, and he's a well-known maximalist
Who shall not be named.
I'm actually trying to talk him in to coming on to the show, and we're in negotiations.
Well, usually I tell people, like, look, pretty much Bitcoin is maxed out, all the people that are going to buy it. You know, it's very hard for Bitcoin to get people in, but what we're trying to do is make it really easy. You know, people within our wallet are going to be able to get Bitcoin all over the world really easily, and they're going to not even need to, you know, use Bitcoin addresses. They're going to be able to use their own name or their phone number or their email address as their address and just click on people's names in the address book and send Bitcoin to each other. You know, what's that going to be doing from Bitcoin? You know, I believe in 5 or 6 years from now, everybody in Bitcoin will say it was kind of a really turning moment, that when Divi really, I call ourselves like a partner to Bitcoin. We really are going to help take Bitcoin to where it's supposed to be. We're not competing with Bitcoin. And while it's true that we're trying to be a currency, we will also become a store of value. The longer we're in existence, the more we do become a store of value. So that's why your next question might be, well, okay, at some point, why are people going to hold on to their masternodes if the inflation rate is down to 2% a year? Why does anybody want one? Aren't they all going to be dumping at some point? You know, and to some extent, people will be selling off the rewards, you know, and maybe downgrading the number of masternodes because people are building up multiple nodes over time, right? So, but the reality is that after we have many years, we're going to become a store of value because we've survived all this long. I mean, why is Bitcoin a store of value? It's because it survived 10 years. It's never been hacked. Governments hate it, but the banks hate it, but they can't stop it. You know, that has a ton of value because of its history. In our case, we develop value just by surviving and by delivering on our promises over and over and over and over. That starts to become very valuable. And the other thing about the inflation rate is that we have a technology we developed called DVS. It's dynamic value sporks. It's something that's basically an improvement on what Dash has. Basically, the way it works is that we can make changes to our blockchain dynamically without having to recode, and we can connect. We'll be able to connect that with governance votes. So the people that actually own the coins could put up a proposal and say, we would like to, you know, the inflation rate's too high right now. We want to lower it, and because the tokenomics is not working out right now. It's just the 7% that we have right now is too high for these economic conditions. At the moment, crypto's in another crypto winter or whatever. Let's lower that to 5, and then see how that goes, you know. So people will be able to, in the governance system, they'll be able to vote, and depending on the vote is held, the blockchain itself will change. And I invented this idea. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I actually was talking the other day to the head of the EOS Foundation, and he said, "Oh, you know, we have that in EOS." I didn't even know that. I never read that anywhere. But the EOS apparently has done the same kind of thing, and they can do it. So we're not the only ones with it, but it is a very cool technology tool that's great for decentralization. The coin holders themselves will be able to vote to change aspects of the blockchain, which even Bitcoin can't do, right? they can come up with great ideas, but they've got to talk miners into it. They've got to talk all these vested interests in it. So it's not a democracy like we will eventually be. So I think long term we'll be more decentralized than Bitcoin or than most.
But you can, I mean, the flip side of that is you can vote yourself more coins as well.
Well, no. So we can put safeguards into that, right? So we don't want the coin holders to vote themselves mass. I mean, that would be kind of suicidal too. And
Well,
it would
I
just
mean, look at the fiat system today. Everybody votes themselves more money.
right. So
but
we can. Yeah, if you look at my notes in that, it'll be like, well, this kind of vote can only happen once per month, and you can't increase or decrease it more than 20% at a time. Or we thought about you could only go down, you can't go up. So we'll see how it looks at the time, and and talk to a lot of people, a lot of really smart people, and go through a lot of the game theory on this and what's best. But there's ways to basically mitigate that problem, because you're right, that could be a big problem.
And it still, the thing that is hovering over me and over the valuation of the token for me is this liquidity bomb, that all this inflation is going into one place, which is right now at least, is the master nodes and the stake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the liquidity bomb at some point, at any point in time, given some kind of circumstance, either with a centralized entity that you guys are, there's a company behind it. You guys are doing things. I love that you're doing things. It's not just a cryptocurrency to be a cryptocurrency. You guys are actually doing things. And I think that'll be important over time to make the case, but there's still a gigantic bomb. What is it right now? Like, I don't know. I think 43% of the master nodes, of the cryptos are in master nodes, and then a certain percent in stake. How much right now, percentage of all the Divi that's been mined, is currently presiding in the master nodes and in the staking?
Right, almost everything is being staked or in master nodes right now. So, but because of that sort of that tiered system, people are holding on to them because they want to reach the next tier, and people have this goal eventually reaching the diamond. And usually when they get to a diamond, then I, they say, oh, they often tell me, I got my diamond. I'm like, yeah, but you're not part of the double diamond club, are you?
but then, I mean, it just makes the problem worse and worse.
Then they start saving up for the next diamond, right? So,
but wouldn't that make the problem worse? I mean, over time, that inflation really isn't getting into the valuation of the coin. It's staying within the system. And if there is something that facilitates all these people who invested in Divi to do the same thing, to make money off of either because they're staking or masternode stuff, if there is an event that makes them change their mind. For example, the thing used with masternodes is the ROI, just over time you have to keep building to keep the same ROI, and it's going to fade away. Will there be a point where all of a sudden the ROI doesn't make any sense at all, and boom, everybody at the same time dumps this gigantic liquidity pool?
Well, we have this problem of people. There are people definitely that want to sell. There are people that want to get out. Like even just the last 3 days, it appeared to me that somebody basically dumped like over $100,000 worth of Divi on the market over like 3 days, and affected our price, and it kind of bounced back up. That's going to happen, but I don't see any one particular event making that happen, or why the tokenomics of that are really any different than any other cryptocurrency. It's the same thing with Bitcoin or Litecoin or Dash or anything else. Why doesn't everybody just dump their Dash? Basically people dump once they see that there's nothing new on the horizon, right? We have lots of really, really amazing things going on. If you really look through what we're doing, we have tremendous amount going on. And because we've succeeded in delivering on so many cool things over the last couple of years, despite having such tiny resources. I mean, we raised only 2.7 million in our ICO, and really only ended up with like 1.5 or 1.7 after all the stuff that it took to get there. And then Ethereum dropped, and then the people that were building it basically walked away from the project and took their entire development budget. We were left with $150,000, $140,000, and nothing to show for it, and had to start all over with just a tiny amount of money. And yet we were able to launch Divi and build up to nearly a $20 million value, basically with $140,000. And we did that because we're good at the business side, and we have a phenomenal team. Our team is really, really good, and a lot of them are very accessible. You can find them you can find everybody. Nobody's anonymous. You can find everybody on their LinkedIn's. You can see people have these incredible histories. We have incredibly good advisors that are talking to us. We have a bunch of advisors that are helping us that are not listed, that are rooting for us, because a lot of people that once they discover what we're doing, that own a lot of Bitcoin, they really want what we have, and one of the reasons we're doing that is because it's good for crypto if Bitcoin does well. It's also good for crypto if Ethereum does well. I mean, I don't really like Ethereum very much because it caused us so much trouble during our ICO, and it's so painful to use. But I totally respect what they've done, but I really want them to succeed because that's good for crypto. It would be terrible if Ethereum somehow failed, right? It would cause a lot of strife in the whole marketplace. So, and I really want all cryptos to succeed. I really don't like the tribalism, the maximalists for each coin. The way I see the future of crypto is it's what I call branded money. So people will basically have these wallets in the future. They'll be multi-coin. Every wallet will be multi-coin, and people will hold a whole bunch of coins. And my job is to make Divi the best one to hold. People like it because it's cool, and because it's giving them some kind of rewards. At the end of the day, holding Divi will be like putting money in a savings account, because in a savings account, if you put it in a checking account, you get pretty much nothing. If you put it in a savings account, you get like 2%. But if we can give people 2%, that's good. It'll be better. And but at that point, the market caps are just gigantic, and nobody cares, right? And everybody's using crypto. And less people are using fiat currencies, right? Mm-hmm. But we're talking about that's 10 years away that it's going to take for the banks to really have sort of change. It's not just the banks, it's the governments, and there's a lot of people don't want, for political reasons, the dollar to stop being the national currency. I think one of the best things that's ever happened is China saying they're creating a digital currency is going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on other governments to rethink their blockchain and cryptocurrency plans, as opposed to what they're doing now, just sort of not knowing what to do. And same thing with Libra. I don't like either of these, Facebook or China being in charge of big cryptocurrencies. But I think it's actually long term, it's good for us and it's good for Bitcoin, because no one's going to trust China and no one's going to trust Facebook either. But they will trust Bitcoin because it's based on math. And it's based on a 10-year history of good. Bitcoin's done good things for the world, Mm-hmm. So, and we're doing that with Divi too.
Okay. Well, that good answers, and it answers a lot of my questions. I'm still, as an investor, I'm always going to be afraid of the liquidity bomb that sits above mm-hmm. any masternode type of.
But why is it different? Why is it different for a masternode coin than for? That's one thing I don't understand your position. If I understood what you're saying better, I could probably answer it better for you.
Sure. For me, the reason to get a Divi coin right now would be because of the masternode rewards and the rewards for staking, and that's great. But you're going to have very similar people holding these masternodes and the staking nodes. They're all going to have the same kind of mindset about, I'm going to make my money here. I'm going to pay off my original investment. I'm looking at ROI. I'm looking at all these things. But it's great going up, because they're all focused on that. Coming down, they're all going to have, oh my God, I got to get out. I got to get my investment out. Oh shit, I lost money. I got to get out. And you have, it's kind of like building is going to be slow, but if it does tank before you guys can do all these things you want to do fully, if people do lose faith that the ROI they expect is not going to show up, then you have a gigantic liquidity. Then inflation gets shown into the exchanges. Right now, it's not, the inflation isn't going into the exchanges at all. So of course your token's going to do pretty well because there's no tokens coming in. Everybody wants to continue to build because of the big ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reverse when that happens, and it could happen with any coin. You're right. It could happen with anything in any kind of exchange or market. But these are all aligned investors doing the same thing for the same reason at the same time. And over time, the ROI on the Divi coin will go down just because of the inflation, if not anything else. So I do see the potential. If you guys can't fulfill all these things you're going to do, which is cool, which is awesome. It sounds really awesome. I mean, I do plan on probably trying to get my current Divi masternode up there into a higher, I want to get into silver because I really like silver.
Yeah.
But the reality of it will always hang over my head that there's this gigantic liquidity pool hanging over the potential for a substantial downturn, unless there's more reasons to use Divi, which it sounds like you're working on and things like that.
Right. Well, so one thing that is interesting is that we're working on, one of the reasons that I really like the tiered masternode program is that actually gives us sort of a structure that we can build on. So for example, as we create use cases, we're going to be able to use those Mochi nodes, which are basically cloud instances. We can tack on additional features. Like we talk about basically allowing for our Lightning Network, the master nodes to basically create liquidity pools for Bitcoin and for basically they would run Bitcoin Lightning nodes and run Divi Lightning nodes. So we can do atomic swaps between them very easily within our own network, right? And we can basically, because we control the software for the Divi Labs wallet, we can add all kinds of cool things into our Mochi. So Mochi is the one-click master node installer, right? So another thing we could do is we could create a content delivery system. Like let's say we thought it was a good idea to create a music company to compete with Spotify, which is not a good idea. But if we decided that we wanted to do that, then we could basically create a file storage system within the master node. So they've already got these cloud instances. So for almost no cost, we could have them now store data that people paying with Divi or Bitcoin or Lightning or Litecoin or any of our sort of partner coins want to pay for. They can then deliver that content. And there's many, many different things that we can do once you have this. And so we could say, for example, we could decide how many nodes we want to have, and we could say the platinum and diamond nodes, the two highest levels, are the ones that are going to be expected to provide and store all this data, and they get a share of that. When they deliver the content, they get a share of it. So even if we have to go to a zero inflation, we wouldn't do that just overnight. We would do that with a plan of providing a secondary income source for them. So of some kind, because we've got this sort of network and this platform that we're building. The other thing is that we have an entire economy we're building based on metadata and names. So what we're in the process of doing is adding a technology called Namecoin. You know what Namecoin is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Namecoin, for people that haven't listened, it was the first fork of Bitcoin, and it basically allows you to store all types of names and any type of data really associated with an account. So that means you can, for somebody's Divi account, which is their public key, you could associate, say, encrypted data such as your Bitcoin address or your name or your phone number, and so we could provide blockchain-based lookups where if you want to send Bitcoin to somebody with our wallet, all you have to do is type in their phone number. It'll figure out which Bitcoin address is theirs and just allow you to send it to them without even contacting them, right? So it doesn't have to be. It can be done privately, or it can be done not being privately. But this metadata that gets associated with addresses has a fee associated with it, and so we can, for example, like to add an email address, we might charge $1 worth of Divi, or to add a name, we might charge $3 or $4 or $5. It becomes a domain, like a domain name service, where you basically register your name or you register your phone number, and you get that unique instance associated with you. And so that creates an economy of people registering names and creating fees that also can be paid off to the masternode. So in my perfect future of what I want Divi to be, we want to go into the banking system, and we want to reduce the banking fees to zero everywhere. We want it to cost nothing to store money, nothing to open a bank account, and nothing to basically do exchanges. We want to have everything free, because that's what we've seen Google and Facebook and all their trillion-dollar companies do. They go into an industry, they reduce everything to free, and then they build a platform that finds other ways to add value, things that people actually want to pay for, and you make money that way. And when you do that, that's how you become a giant company. And so that's basically what we're trying to do with Divi and Divi Labs and our partner coins, which Bitcoin and Litecoin will be obvious choices.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much for all this stuff. I mean, obviously I didn't have the full picture. The valuation stuff, I'm still getting my head around, but yeah, thank you for spending the time. Hi, Ben.
I'm going to have you on the show again here soon, Geoff, because what you just explained was a value proposition for owning a master node that I didn't even think of as you actually being paid as a master node holder for associating your node with information storage and process. And that brings on another value on to owning the node, that the whole different show. Sorry, guys.
Right. Yeah, it can go in a lot of directions, but basically we look at it as we're trying to build a very flexible system, because we don't know what the future has in store, right? We want to be prepared. I know a lot of people have put a tremendous amount of money, millions of dollars into trusting me and trusting that Divi is going to be something and not crash down like Bix is worried about. Everybody's worried about that with every cryptocurrency, right? And most of them have crashed down. So people are, of course, a little bit shell shocked, and people are wondering, what's different with Divi? It's a very, very valid concern, and I would feel the same way. I'm really paranoid. I buy almost no other cryptocurrencies, and when I do, they almost always drop 95% within a few months. I mean, and a lot of them are really good projects that had really famous people running them and this kind of thing, and they seem really good, and so I understand why people would think Divi's the same, and so I take it very, very seriously that people are trusting me and Nick and our team to deliver on our promises, right? And so for me, that means basically always having a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And so, I agree with what you said several times, that it's all about scarcity. For me, I think every day, like, how do I create scarcity? And everything we really do is about creating scarcity, because if you create scarcity, then people want the coin. It's just the way it works. It creates FUD, and it creates all kinds of people understand that if a coin is scarce, or if anything is scarce, it then becomes valuable if it has a use case. And there's an easy use case. I mean, it's the cryptocurrency use case, and it's the store value. Those are the two easy ones. What's harder, and that nobody has really done yet, at least not successfully, is create another use case that actually people want to use. And we have several really cool things we're working on that are really good use cases that we'll be announcing in the next few months that that people are I think people are really gonna like. For me, it's all about, before I did crypto, I've been a product designer my whole life, and I believe that that's what crypto is really lacking. The problem is that the products being designed within crypto are mainly being designed by crypto people who don't really know what the rest of the world wants. And so they create stuff that's just too difficult to use. So you have to have, in order to get the genius designers and the artists and the visionaries that design great products into crypto so that people will make stuff that people actually want to use, it has to be a lot easier, because these people they're not willing to deal with all these private keys and the public keys, addresses, and just all the real complicated nature of all of this. They either just do something else or they do something centralized. And so for us, we need to make it really easy, make a really attractive platform for these people to come in and build something really cool and create those kind of great use cases. And so it all kind of works together, and so for me, it's all about building tools. We want people to be able to come in and develop very easily on our platform and have access to all these incredible APIs where they can sort of reach in and pull the best ideas out of different coins within our ecosystem and use them easily to build their own product, because nobody wants to fight with these blockchains. They just want to do their cool use case. And no one really knows what that's going to be yet. People are doing digital art. Not many people are really doing it. Here's a good example. I was looking today just to confirm this. EOS, right? EOS is a $2+ billion coin, and they've created a whole bunch of dApps on the EOS blockchain. But even the top one, I think, has 4,000 users, and only 3 or 4 have more than 1,000 users. And this is a coin that's known by several million people. Nobody's using it. Nobody uses EOS, right? And it's a big problem that they have, and they're not alone. There's nothing wrong with EOS really. EOS is actually pretty good. It's not as centralized as people think, and it works really well. It works really fast, but it's incredibly difficult to develop on. And so people don't want to develop on that. So, I'm a kind of person, I like to learn from other people's mistakes and not have to make them myself. I think that's one thing you kind of learn when you're a young man, you're in your 20s, you love to make all your own mistakes and do things yourself. For me, I love to talk to other people and take advice from people. And I've learned that. I'm 51 years old, so I don't like to make mistakes at all. So if I can avoid them, I will.
All right, guys, we got to wrap this up.
All right.
All right, Bix and Geoff, thank you guys so much. Where can people get more information from each of you? If you're watching this on my channel, of course, I'm actually Bitcoin Ben. Check me out on YouTube. Bix, where can everyone find you?
Website's roadtoruta.com, YouTube channel Road to Ruta.
All right, Geoff, where can people reach out?
Yeah, diviproject.org is the website, or I would just go into Telegram and find our official website, and we have a very, very friendly community. So come on in and ask questions. They'll point you to really good resources that are the most up to date. We have extensive articles describing a lot of what I'm talking about here. We have 2 extensive articles written about Divi's inflation and how we have it under control, and how we're very aware of the issue and what we're doing to keep that under control and make sure that it works. Excellent. And almost every other issue you want to ask, you're going to find extensive information written by me or Nick, explaining. It'll give you a lot of confidence in us, because you'll see we've thought about this stuff a lot.
Awesome. All right, guys. Great job. Love everybody. Talk to you guys.
All right. Thank you.